Welcome back to another episode of the Sky Society podcast. Today, I'm incredibly excited to be chatting with Matthis Pluska. She is a sales enablement manager at Meta. Welcome, Matthis.
Thank you, Natalie, so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm very excited to talk through your career journey, and everything that you do very much has a marketing with a global mindset. So we're going to take a very global approach here. Matthis speaks 7 languages, which is absolutely insane. So I'm really excited to dive into your history. But before we jump into all of that, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I am a French, Polish, Iranian, and I grew up with a Mexican godfather. I was born in France and raised in the Bay Area, in the heart of Silicon Valley, actually. Go Palo Alto, go Titans. And I've lived all around the world, from South America to Europe to the States. And I have worked in different industries, ranging from fashion to startups to conglomerates and tech.
Amazing. So I think what really stands out about you is this very diverse cultural background influence that you have. So as you mentioned, you're a French, Polish, Iranian who grew up with a Mexican godfather, and you also lived in several different countries. So can you tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with so many different and diverse cultural influences?
Absolutely. I think it's the most fun childhood one could really ask for, because you get to play and listen to different rules based on different cultures and mindsets. And so there's really not just like one way to think about something, or how to play a game, or how to um, follow rules of life, if you will. You have a different set of values for each culture, some of which overlap and some of which don't. And so it kind of allows for you to remain open-minded and open-hearted to the different experiences that life is ready to offer you.
So how does the 7 languages come into play? Because I think there's a lot of people that may have very, diverse cultural backgrounds, but they don't all know 7 languages. So what kind of inspired you to pursue this skill, and why do you think it's important?
I have to credit my mom for this. This is definitely her doing. And I think it just came naturally, right? So she's French Polish. My biological father was Iranian, and by the age of 4, I learned 4 languages in my home. So this was just something that we naturally practiced and highly valued. My mom used to work in linguistics. She also used to be an avid traveler. So this just kind of ran naturally in our family's course. And then after that, because we traveled every year for every summer and every Christmas, then just picking up languages was an easier skill for me to take on, because I had the confidence to make errors if I needed to meet new people easily. So learning a language helps you break different barriers across your personality type, and I think that's super important. And so in high school and then in college, I learned Mandarin, Italian, and then I taught myself Portuguese, which then later down the line, when I moved to Brazil, was very helpful. And it's
Wow.
a very important skill. I mean, like I've mentioned, not only can you really communicate verbally with different people and different walks of life, but language is so much deeper than just a spoken word, if you will. It's cultural. It's in the things that you do non-verbally. It's in your beliefs. It's in the way, in your values, in the ways that you live your life. And so this just gives you a huge level of understanding of how other people are leading their lives, and why they might be doing things differently than you. And it just gives you a huge appreciation for where you come from and the differences and similarities in what you can find between yourself and the world. So I think it makes the world a smaller place, if you will.
That's very beautiful, and I definitely admire your ability to pick up these languages. For me personally, learning, I mean, I'm growing up, I'm from California, everyone learns Spanish. It's like the language that they teach you. And
Yeah.
even with studying abroad, even my mom is a native Spanish speaker. Was always just so hard to pick up the language, and I know it comes easier to others than comes easier to some than others, but it still definitely takes a lot of work because languages have so many, like you said, like it's not just what you speak, like there's a lot of nuances to how things are said and why they're said. So that is absolutely amazing to hear that you can speak 7 different languages. And then you mentioned that growing up by the age of 4, you were already speaking 4 languages. Is that what you said?
Yeah, English, French, Spanish, and Polish. So that's just everything that was in my household. And my mom was very determined to make sure that I spoke a roster of languages. And she supplemented this with extra homeworks and extra books on listening skills and exercises and things like that, and traveling and that was very helpful, because I think if you don't reinforce, then really it's very easy to lose what you've learned, especially as you grow up and you have different activities in your life, sports, a job, etc. So I think that's a huge reason why I'm still successful today.
I love that she did that for you because that is like a gift. That is a very beautiful gift that your mom gave you. Because when you're young, it's so much easier to pick up languages than it is when you're older. And then you also kind of cultivated that skill of being able to understand and speak different ones. I think if, yeah, anyone could, it's hard to do that because like you said, it's not just speaking it in the household, right? Your mom had to do other things. It's not,
Right.
to make sure that you actually like kept it and learned it and understood it. As I mentioned, my mom is a native Spanish speaker and she didn't raise any of us bilingual, but my parents 10 years later had another kid, one of those situations. And I was like, Mom, you have to raise him bilingual. Because I really, really wish you did that with me because it's so hard for me to learn Spanish now. It would have been so much easier. And so now what's really cool is a lot of schools have like Spanish immersion programs, or they kind of, do more to cultivate if you are someone that is bilingual or are a kid that's bilingual. So it's really cool because now he's 6 now, but he speaks, fluent Spanish, fluent English. And then at school he's in a special like Spanish immersion program where he also gets to learn. So I think that's like, yeah, such an awesome gift you can give your kid.
Yeah, at the time, maybe not so fun. And
No.
probably like kids are resistant to it, but I think like the French parenting style is like you do what your parents say. And that's you like parents aren't living in a child's world, like the child is living in a parent's world. And so with that kind of tough love mentality, you'll learn how to persevere through these moments of challenges, such as doing extra homework when it's like, well, but this is not part of my school's work. Why are you giving me extra work? Or why do I need to read 2 extra books? Like, it all adds up and it's worth it when you're an adult.
It is, even though if you don't see it as a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
So you are able to speak all these different languages. You have this very unique global, perspective and mindset. Can you tell me a little bit about how that translates into your career and how that helps you as a sales enablement manager at Meta, focusing on global business marketing?
For sure. I mean, you said it in the title of my job, global business marketing. So it doesn't necessarily always suffice to be thinking about our work in a one society, a one size fits all kind of mindset. It's really important to be able to be sensitive and open to different cultural nuances, mindsets. We work with small business advertisers who are setting up performance campaigns across Meta platforms such as WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, Facebook, etc. And they're trying to learn more tactics as to how to optimize their performance for their ads. And so the way that they talk about budget, the way that they talk about reels, the way that they are thinking about how to brand their small business, these are all things that will slightly change based on where they are. So having a global mindset is really important to be able to understand and define what are these audiences' needs and how do they differ, and how do we then cater to their needs differently in the ways that we show up for them and that we support them and champion them in their day-to-day work when it comes to their advertising strategies.
So if someone has a interest like you do of exploring different cultures, is this maybe a type of career path that would be, really catering to that passion of, if you are able to understand like how different how we differ across the globe, even if, we are same, we all, have different cultural influences. Just because I always love being able to incorporate what people love, like in their personal life as a passion, like, and being able to also explore that in your career.
1,000%. Like anything that's international marketing, global marketing, will naturally entail having these pockets of experiences where you'll be able to kind of plug and play yourself and your experiences, whether previously professional or personal, into this new role. And so I think it's a really fun place to be. And coming from even two different cultures, let's say like you're American, and then you have your mom with her other background, then you're already coming in with two sets of ways of thinking, ways of being, ways of living, of accepting life. So this can help you be more sensitive to what's coming and help you be more malleable in case you need to think differently or more creatively about how to best fit your audience's needs.
I feel like what you just said there would be a great answer if someone asked you, like, what makes you different from other applicants. I feel like if you want to snip it and re-listen to that, I think that was just such a great answer, because a lot of people listen to this podcast too are younger in their career, just starting out. And if you do come from a multicultural family, positioning that as an asset is an absolutely amazing thing. And I wish I would have done that more. But like you said, there's so many benefits of coming up with this different upbringing. It allows you to bring a different perspective. It makes you more malleable. It makes you more open-minded. And there are all those things. So if we're looking for if you're struggling to find something that differentiates you, even though this one, you may not have immediately thought that, oh, having a multicultural background will make me better in my career, it absolutely will. And it's a great thing to kind of highlight when you are going through the interview process, and really showcasing that you can bring something unique to the table.
It's true. It's true. And I will say, when I started out my career, it wasn't as coveted as it is now to be, a champion and a subject matter expert, if you will, in languages. I think I had to really push for people to believe that it was an asset, and that it's not just about the feat of how many languages or which languages, but really what comes after that. And like, how can I use the ways in which my brain works differently to, come up with something creative and amazing for the company I'm working for, or the client I'm working with. And so I think you just have to really believe that this is important. It doesn't matter if you're from a Colombian descent and you just speak Spanish. Like, don't bring it down to, I just speak one other language outside of English. Everything that you do, and any language that it is, it's super important. And the first person that really should believe that this is important is you. And like, you need to keep pushing and keep challenging the status quo and the norm, because a lot of companies still are thinking very American centric, and they're not going to go as far in this new personalized world in which we're going in with AI and different technologies that are now available to us. At some point is gonna hit them negatively and impact them. So I think the first thing is like, don't give it up, and keep it top of your resume and anytime you're interviewing, because if it's important to you, it will become important to the company. But you need to tell them how and why it's important. You can't wait for them to think that it's important and then shine the light on you.
Absolutely. And I love, Matthis, that you said that it's more than just that you know two languages, because so many people put that on their resume, right? Oh, I'm bilingual, or can speak multiple languages, but it's understanding that it's so much more than that. And like you said, being really proud of that and championing that, and valuing it more than than most people probably do. So I hope that this really inspires people that are, that do come from a similar background, that's absolutely an asset. And you're right. I think that it's likely a lot more coveted now than it was when you started out in your career. And so it's important to use that to your advantage if you can.
For sure. And another thing I'll add is, for the listeners that are like, well, I only speak English, or I speak like 1.5 languages, or my second one is not as strong, like, how can this still apply to me? think of it this way. America, as we say, is a melting pot, right? And so the cultures differ from state to state, right? And understanding those nuances is already super important, and is a great starting point, because if you can understand how Californians think differently than New Yorkers, and what kinds of things trigger them, and what kind of marketing messages like resonate with them, then you're already on the right road to understanding cultural nuances. So it's not necessarily about the number of languages, but it's all, but cultural nuances just go beyond, again, spoken word.
100%. Amazing. Yes. So I love that you highlighted that nuance of it even applies within states, or it even can be within cities. So within California, San Diegans are different than those from San Francisco. So it is really interesting to see how much culture changes even when you're within the same country.
Mm.
Okay, Matthis. So we talked a little bit about how your global background and perspective has really influenced your role now. One of the other things that you say that you bring to teams is a desire and a willingness to learn. I love that you said that, and I want to dive into this a little bit. So can you tell me why having a desire and willingness to learn is a powerful skill to have?
Totally. I think what we often see nowadays are people that, want a job to have a job. But if you think back to, in the 50s, people had one job for their whole entire lives. Now we're in a place where you can have multiple careers in your lifetime and be amazing at all of those careers, and then learn so much about yourself through that, right? And what are some of the skills that it would take one person to be able to jump from being a lawyer to being a nurse to being a chef? This is a crazy example, but just one, for example. It would take them to be curious, right? And so everything starts with curiosity. I now have a desire to learn more about how to be a nurse, even though I spent all this time being a lawyer. I now have this curiosity of understanding what kind of skills it takes to be a teacher. So having a desire to learn and stay flexible and be curious can only serve you. There's no real negatives to learning something new in life, but you have to stay agile and open to those opportunities. And in fact, you have to seek them out yourself. It's easy also to get overwhelmed and take too many things on at the same time. So I would say, like, start with one thing that you've said you've wanted to learn. It could be like SEO, because you're now in content marketing and you want to learn more about that, or you want to learn more about something that maybe you're not a subject matter expert in, and you're not sure that you want to pivot your career yet. Well, this is a great way to do a LinkedIn course or HubSpot. Listen to people on their day-to-day videos on YouTube about what their job is like. Stay curious, because also if you're in a position where, like, you're thinking, okay, I'm happy with my job now, but I'm thinking I'm ready to switch. How do I kind of get myself thinking differently, because now I've been in my job for a year or two or something? Like, it starts with being open to life. And a good way is to do informational interviews with people who are maybe like one or two teams away from you, and go like, by the way, we work together, but like, I don't really understand, like, what's your full role? Like, what does that mean? And I'm thinking about making a pivot. So networking and doing your due diligence of finding things to keep you sharp, I think, is super important.
Matthis, this is amazing advice. I'm really, really glad that we're touching on this, because especially for women who are new, if you're newer to your career, I mean, this is applicable to any stage, but I think this is your biggest asset of helping you grow, is if you are willing to learn and that you accept that you do not know everything. Like, you can still be very qualified for a role, but also accepting that you have so much room to grow. Because I always, if someone were to ask me, like, what why I think I've been able to be successful in my career, it's 100% because of this. It's having a willingness to learn, having curiosity, and being open-minded and saying that I am not perfect and I have room to grow, and I'm actually going to, take initiative and do that. I don't think I was ever qualified for any role that I had. I think the reason I succeeded was because I knew how to figure things out. I could solve problems. And so I think that's such a huge asset. I think if you're in an interview, I mean, you're giving some good interview answer questions here. So I think if you're also asked, like, and you're someone who's maybe struggling to figure out, maybe you lack experience, or you don't really know what your differentiating factor is or what makes you unique. This is the thing that can make you unique. If you're asked, why should we hire you, or what can you bring to the table that other candidates can't? Employers love to hear that you are willing to learn, you're willing to put into the work to learn new things, because that just makes you such a better employee and will allow you to move up in your career so much faster. So thank you, for elaborating on why that's so important. Do you have any advice for people on how they can cultivate that skill and become better at this self-development aspect of, I know you kind of mentioned some things before, but how can we cultivate that skill?
Yeah, you have to stay hungry. You have to think of this as an extension of your forever career growth. And also, it's not just about career, right? In America, we're very like career centric. In other parts of the world, while we value our careers, it does not rule our life. So there's so much to learn outside of life. So this advice applies to, it applies holistically, if you will, because you should obviously stay hungry in general, like whether it's like checking out a new country, or learning about someone else's job, right? So ways to stay hungry is hold yourself accountable, right? Maybe set up once a week, like 1 hour for you to learn a new skill, or for you to just start doing a little bit of research on a topic that might be interesting to you. Find maybe one person that is really good at that skill and that you could ask some questions about, and ask them how they got started and what's like the best tool that they use on their day-to-day work. Things like that I think are really helpful and will help get the ball rolling, right? I think the other point here is consistency, obviously. Staying consistent, you're building a new habit, a new muscle, and then it kind of gets easier as you go, and you'll get more creative as you go. And this will not only help you in networking, but in all facets of your life.
I think that balance you mentioned there is staying hungry and wanting stuff, but also like diversifying where your curiosity is. And that it's great to focus on building your skill set in marketing. That's amazing, but also be curious and be wanting to learn about other areas in life. One of the passions I picked up later in life was reading. And when I started reading, I was all about business and marketing, and that's all I would read about. And then I was like, wait, like, this is not school anymore. I don't need to just be focusing on like one subject. I could read about anything I want to learn in life. And it's been so fun for me, just like go picking up a book and reading about some random topic, just like purely just to learn about it for fun. And I think that being curious outside of your career is what you said, so important. And other cultures do it so much better than America. I will always remember that when I studied abroad in Spain and you get asked, like, hey, how are you doing? In America, you just say good, how are you? And in Spain, I loved, you'll sit there and you'll have a huge conversation and they'll open up and be vulnerable. And I think that is an important aspect we could bring from, other cultures is diversifying where your interests are and being more than just your career.
Yeah, for sure. It helps you to become a more well-rounded person, someone who can really feel confident that if the rug gets pulled from underneath their 2 feet, that they can, land back on their 2 feet and be okay with that, and be able to pivot quickly and understand the situation, and be able to read the room and trust themselves and their intuition. I think as young women, that's probably the one big thing that we struggle with, is like we know the answer in our hearts, but then our minds kind of flutter in a different direction, and we're kind of finding ourselves at crossroads. And this can happen in our career where we're unsure of something, whether we're dating someone new or making a new friend, trying to figure out if we can trust them, in different situations. And I think, just always ensuring that your due north is in your heart, you can't go wrong, because it'll be much harder for you to quote unquote regret this moment and this decision, like looking back on it, because you acted wholeheartedly and you acted passionately and what you thought was true and right for you at that time. So it's very hard for you to self-judge and self-critique when you're really putting all of your best feet forward, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. On this thread of talking about how, you know, different cultures compared to the United States, is there any other, I know there's probably a ton for you, but a practice in another culture or a mindset or a belief that you try to bring to the US, or that you try to incorporate more in your life that you've discovered, you know, now that you've got to experience so many other cultures?
I feel like all the moms out there will really thank me for this one. But it's a very simple one. Okay. It's taking the time to eat and not to eat in front of a device. So mindful eating, because if you actually focus and you're not on your phone and you're not on a computer, you're not in front of a TV, if you focus on your food, on your surroundings, on, you know, how full you're getting, you're having a more present experience. And you know, you're cutting up your day from being just work, 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 and then a gym and errands and all these things, and you're opening it up so your day could be much more. You now are allowing yourself to have a unique moment with yourself, or you could even share that interaction with coworkers or a friend or a neighbor. Like I love to have coffee sometimes with my old 80-year-old neighbor and just chit chat. And he is just like, every time we talk, it just grounds me, right? And then I almost let go of my frustration sometimes, and can be reminded, like, oh, there's so much more out there than just this job. Then even if I really love this job, or maybe on a day I'm super frustrated, like this helps me get pulled out of the work only bubble and focus back on me, myself, my life as an individual, as a woman. And that is so powerful and it's so grounding. So starting something as small as mindful eating and practicing that, for example, in French culture, it's super important. You just have to move away from your desk and eat at a different place, right? And something as simple as that can really have amazing ripple effects.
I think that's applicable to more than just mothers. Even you mentioning that has been something I've also tried to practice, because yeah, you're in American culture, we eat on the go. You're in a meeting, you're eating, you know, maybe you're listening to the podcast right now and you're eating lunch. Or I know a lot of times as I work from home, if I'm eating lunch, it's like, all right, I'll turn the TV on, I'll take a break, I'll turn the TV on and I'll eat. And it's such a different experience if you just sit there, but even if you just sit there by yourself and you eat your food and you actually notice how it tastes, you notice the texture, you know, use license at the smell, all of that, I think it makes you feel so much more fulfilled by your food, I think. And so I think and if I feel like that could be like a whole other topic, but if you are someone that eats on the go all the time, or eats during a meeting, or eats while watching TV, or while scrolling through TikTok, because, you know, you're using it as a time to like desensitize, I think what you mentioned is actually trying mindful eating and being present with your food is an amazing, amazing thing that you can incorporate in your life, especially since so many people, and especially women, struggle with their relationship with food.
Totally. And that, yeah, I forgot, I didn't mention why moms would love this, but yeah, because, you know, here we don't really press that much attention on the art of digestion, and that it needs time, and great things take time. And, you know, it's not because you're eating your lunch in 10-15 minutes that you have fully digested that, right? And so if you're eating faster, you're also a bit maybe more likely to eat more. If you're eating while you're distracted on any kind of device, you know, studies have shown that people then end up overeating, or, you know, going for seconds and thirds. And while there's nothing wrong with that, like, you know, I would just ask the question, like, were you really actually physically hungry, or were you bored, or, you know, entertained with something else and wrapped in that, and then that kind of took over, you know, then your experience, and then how you showed up for that experience. And then again, to your point, as you know, a lot of girls and women have different relationships with food, then this could also play a part in, some other negative feelings that they then take out on themselves, which is really unfortunate. So I think just staying present and being able to enjoy your food, like that's a really great way to start practicing a new habit. And to, circle back on your last point about staying desensitized, I actually think it's harder to get away from devices than we think it is. Even for myself, it's a struggle. Like I will delete Instagram and then I'll like re-download it a few days later. It's hard for me to go on a walk outside and not bring my phone. Like it's really tough. So I 100% understand that this is and not just like a quick fix or like, yeah, eat your lunch and don't be in front of like a device. It's easier said than done, which is why I think it takes diligence, a willingness to learn a new habit, consistency, and all of the things we've already mentioned in today's episode.
I love how our episode today is very keeping in what your cultural influences are, which is that we're not just talking about career, we're talking about life and how bettering your life will also better other areas, including your career. So I'm glad we also got to touch on this mindful eating piece. I want to bring us back to your motto, Matthis. I think it's also very rare that people have a motto, but your motto is, "With passion, do we truly live." Can you tell me what that means to you?
For sure. I think that a lot of people focus on numbers, on goals, on accomplishments. They think about discipline. They think about all these adjectives and nouns and verbs of like that will inspire them and motivate them to get them to the next level. But like, look at all of those startups that have actually then gone to IPOs, or that have actually like stuck around for more than 10 years and are successful and are making money. Okay, because being successful doesn't necessarily mean that they're making money. So that's different. That took so much more than just like organization, tact, strategy, and good networking and like funding. It took passion, it took diligence. Like the thing that's gonna get you across the line is grit and passion. And like if you don't have those two things, like you could have like the smartest idea, but then you could burn out, you could like let go. There's a lot of things that could happen. But if it's something that like, no matter if you are scared or not of failing, whatever that means for this project, for this thing in your life, you're still willing to show up every day like you have passion. Like it's the thing that you think about when you're walking or cooking or taking a shower, like you're passionate about that. Like no one can take that passion, that fire away from you. And like for me, that's how I feel alive. Like I can't be at a job where I give 100%. Oh my God, she's crazy. No, because I am someone, also I'm an Aries, shout out to Aries, who I want to give 3000% every single day. Like you will know that I'm, very passionate about something because you'll just feel it. You'll see it in my work. You'll see how I talk to you, how I'm engaging with you. Like you will not question that. And like, to an earlier question and point in this episode, like how can I stand out? Show that you're really passionate. Is this even a stretch job? Like you're not even sure you can get? Again, if you have willingness to learn and you're like passionate, you're like, and you're open, hey, I don't know much about this subject, but this is really enticing to me. And this is what I think I could bring to the table. You're most likely going to get a spot in the next interview round, right? Because like, it doesn't always matter if someone already has experience in that field, but they're just getting another job in this similar field. It's easier for them to make that jump. But like someone who's willing to learn and who has passion, they have drive, like they're, if you will, you can say like a self-starter. They're reliable, they have that entrepreneurial mindset. Like what could go wrong there? Like that's what people want, that's what companies want. So that's why I think passion, we don't often hear about it. We can also overuse the word in different ways. I don't think it always hits home. But yeah, I think it's a great way to stand out and to show people you really care, because that's not something that you can just overnight decide to have. It
Absolutely.
doesn't work that way.
And I like how you said that we often, I think, misuse the word passion. And I think you kind of give an example of like being passionate about numbers and stuff. I don't think a lot of people, or I see people being like, oh, I'm passionate about marketing automation. Like, no, you're not. Like, that's not actually what you're passionate about. And I think something that's also really hard, especially if you're young, is maybe identifying what you're passionate about. You know, if you've ever felt really envious of someone that you meet and they like know exactly what they want to do, they know what their dream job is, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like I have no idea what I want. I see you laughing. Have you ever felt or know what that is, Matthis?
That's an interesting question. I laugh because I'm that person that people were mad at.
Look at they're mad at you.
I started working like, non-officially as a babysitter. I was 12 years old. Then I started, having other different jobs. So I've been very independent from a young age. I started helping to raise my siblings. I was 10 years old. Like, so I've always had this drive to work and to do something with myself. But there have been times, because to my surprise in life, as diverse as my profile is, as hungry as I am, as passionate as I am, I've been met with a lot of tough moments in my career where I honestly didn't think I was gonna, quote unquote, make it. And still, if you ask me today, like, do I think I have made it because I work at one of the top companies in the world? I would say, I don't think so, right? Because like I think my values lie, a little bit elsewhere. And while some of them overlap with Meta, like a bunch don't, right? And so there's this cognitive dissonance. And like, how do I still show up passionately at work every day while I understand like there's this difference, and like this is what a lot of people think that they should want, because it's been ingrained in them. And I'll give even more of an example. I used to work at Facebook back when it was called that in 2017. And I had just graduated from UC Davis, and it was a job that everybody at my high school and college wanted. Like, quote unquote, you made it. And I was super unhappy and I was bored. And like, cause like, that's not what I wanted. And that's not how I was raised to want. So it didn't make sense. And although I accepted the job, like a year on the dot, I decided to quit and I moved to a third world country. And I was, like 23, 24. So that was a great shock, like shocking your system and trying something new and seeing like how you're going to land on your own 2 feet. Like that's the best way to get to know yourself and really build resilience and self-love and self-acceptance, and like face yourself in the midst of life. And I think that's also how you can get more grit. So yeah, I think like traveling is amazing, and being able to leverage some of those experiences to ground yourself and to figure out who and how you want to act and be is one of the best gifts that you can offer yourself.
And it's such a hard one to answer, as you mentioned, of really figuring out what you're passionate about. Sometimes it does take a complete, like they say, the best way to change your habits is to change your environment. And so moving somewhere new is different. I've talked about that a lot before, but I moved to Austin without knowing anybody, and having that experience, it really does challenge you in ways that will show you things about yourself. But if you aren't able to make a drastic move to a third world country or move, across the country, I always like this analogy of it's not really what you're passionate about. It's really thinking about what gives you energy and using that as a compass and really saying like, okay, what am I thinking about in the shower? Well, first of all, are you watching TV? I know a lot of people watch TV in the shower or YouTube. Maybe turn that off.
Yeah.
I always like the analogy of like showering is accidental meditation, because it's kind of like the one time really where you're not doing anything. As long as I know a lot of people do have their phones on, but like try to not have your phone on in the shower. And that is like a good time to really think like, what are you thinking about And also what gives you energy. So like, what are things that you do in your life that you feel like you could keep doing that you get lost in? And I use this analogy a lot for girls who go through our accelerator, because you get to try so many different areas in marketing. And I always say, like, be mindful of like, oh, if you're writing a blog post, is that like, you're like, oh, I could do this forever, I want to do 5, like I'm having so much fun, I'm getting lost in this? Or is it like a struggle? Or when you're, working with influencers and you're doing the influencer campaign, are you loving communicating with them and getting the videos live, or is it like a drag? And just really being mindful of like, okay, what is really giving me energy? What do I feel like, excites me? And then using that kind of as your compass to say, okay, I think this is really where my passion is going. Because I think if you're just to go and be like, what are you passionate about? For some of us that aren't you, Matthis, and we don't really know what that big thing in our life is, I think that looking at what energizes you is a really, really good place to start.
For sure, for sure. And I will say, some of the things that you've touched on also relate back to being mindful, right? Like, how can
Yes.
you understand what like gave you energy or dragged your energy down if you're not self-aware and practicing, mindfulness and taking a moment of pause to see like, how is this affecting me? In which direction is it affecting me, right? And the second point here is also, I think, similar to wellness, like it's been spoken about like passion and finding your passion as, like, oh, like do this exercise, or like, you just try a bunch of new things, then you'll see where you land. Like, I think sometimes we're putting too much emphasis and meaning on like, find your passion. And if I haven't found my passion yet, then I don't really know who I am or where I'm going in life. And that kind of gives us uncertainty, because we're grounding our passion really in the identity, in the root of the identity of who we are or who we're trying to be. And I think that can be a bit scary, and I think that can be very overwhelming. And I just want to say for the listeners out there, like, take a breath. Like, you might not find your passion till you're 42. That shouldn't be scary. That is exactly what life is about. And if that feels scary to you, like, do the work to understand why it feels scary. Like, was it taught to you that like finding your passion at 42 was like, not a good thing and like not something to be proud of? Like, I would be damn proud if at 42, like, I had my dream bed and breakfast, luxury bed and breakfast in the south of France, and like it was killer. Like, that would be amazing. But like, I had to do that understand work with myself and go, can I accept that of myself? Because growing up in Palo Alto, it was like, you need to have everything together and go to the best school and have the best job and be number one. And it was very stressful. And like, how can you do your best work when you're constantly stressed? And then when you're stressing yourself out trying to meet society's expectations or your friends or your parents' expectations. So again, like, take a breath, guys, because like finding your passion is not easy. And it's you can do it in so many different ways. So like, don't fret if trying everything on your radar doesn't work for you and then you end up feeling exhausted. Take the break that you need, because actually maybe it will come to you when you're taking a break. If you want to be creative, then sometimes you need to remove your foot from the pedal and, just kind of cruise around and do an intake of what's around you and how you're feeling. And that will really signal where you should be going next.
I mean, Matthis, that was so good. And I'm very, very grateful that our conversation shifted to talking about this more, because I think it's so important. And you mentioned how it's amazing if you find your passion at 42, because I think most people don't even find it then. And it's so important to be mindful along the way, because I think you're gonna have to try, kind of like try on passions, like you kind of try on a t-shirt for a little bit and really try to see what fits for you until you eventually find the thing. It's one thing I've always been curious about with my own life and starting businesses. Like, I have Sky Society right now. I've had other businesses before that did not fit. And I thought I'd be passionate about it. And then I realized that I wasn't. And then I found this and it fit so much better in my life, but I wouldn't have really known that unless I kind of made the mistakes with the other ones before and figured that, okay, let me try this. And it's not a good fit, but I'm still figuring out what that is for me. It's not just like it clicked. And I think some people, maybe you envy other people, if you may see online, you're like, oh, they found their passion and their life is so great because of it. But it's also like, it's going to keep changing and evolving as you learn more about yourself. You may do the Airbnb in the south of France and then figure out like, okay, this is great, but maybe, it's something else needs to be different. Like, it's constantly going to evolve and change. And I love our theme of mindfulness, because I think in order for you to really figure it out, you have to be mindful and aware of how different things are affecting you and what you truly like. And you also mentioned how our family influences that as well, or how our upbringing can really, really influence what we say is okay and not okay for us, and understanding what our limiting beliefs about ourselves are.
Totally. And I think the one thing that people don't emphasize enough is that this finding your passion is uncomfortable, guys. It's not a walk in the park. It's not supposed to be so much fun all the time. Like, or don't be so shocked if it's not so fun all the time. Like, it's hard work, it's dedication, it's consistency, and it's not always peaches and roses. So it's uncomfortable. And like understanding and using mindfulness to then figure out like, how long can I remain uncomfortable in this position, because I'm still learning things about myself and I'm trying to like and learn these new skills, even though this is not my dream job, this is a stepping stone. Like, what's my sweet spot in understanding yourself? Okay, I think I could manage a year here, and then like, again, resetting and managing your expectations 6 months down the line. How do you feel? Are you like, oh, can't wait to get out of here? 6 months, it feels like forever. Like, maybe I need to redirect and pivot now. So being able to take the pauses with yourself and seeing like, it's not about who can last the longest in the most uncomfortable position. Like, this is very subjective to you and how you choose to live your life. But the best things in life take a lot of hard work and patience, and it can be a scary road to go down yourself. So it's great that these listeners have your podcast available to them and so many great resources today. I don't think it was the same for our moms, for example, when they were going through these things themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matthis, this has been an absolutely incredible discussion. We touched on very unique topics that I have not really covered on the Sky Society podcast yet. So I'm very, very grateful for that, and for you opening up and really sharing your perspective on life and career and diversity and passion. So thank you again for coming on the podcast and sharing all of your wonderful advice with us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.